Chill out. All right. What is up? What is up, Warriors? Hope you guys are doing well, man. Better than good, better than great. Feeling your best and fighting your fight. Um, I'm your host, Travis, one part of Warriors Way Home. Hope you guys are doing well, man. So we're gonna get it popping here in just a second, man. We got a really good topic tonight, so we're gonna hop right into it. Just want to check one thing, make sure we got ourselves going on the stream here. Mm-mm. Give everybody a few minutes to just a few seconds, just come in real quick. Make sure we got this going. All right, looking good. Make sure we got sound. Good. We got sound. All right, we are in business. So, man, so what we are talking about tonight, man, is we are hopping into talking about honor. It's one of those things that we don't hear a lot talked about. We've been talking more about it in a few interviews that we had. One with Soul Immortal. Shout out to our brother Soul, member of the Power Circle. Another member of the Power Circle we recently had an interview with, Mr. James Cameron, the champ, as we like to call him. Great guy, man. Definitely check out that interview, those interviews if you have a chance to. But we've been talking about honor quite a bit as far as when masculinity is concerned. So one big thing that we usually say when we're with what we're doing is we have 4 pillars. We have mastery, masculinity, entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship, and combat. Well, part of that masculinity piece is honorable masculinity. That's how we define ourselves and what we do, how we live our lives, and the people we surround ourselves with is honorable men, not just quote unquote masculine men, because that term has kind of been taken over as of late, to where you have a lot of guys talking about how masculine they are because they date a lot of women or they drive a Lambo or they make a lot of money, and these things don't necessarily make you masculine. They may make you successful in certain areas, but they don't necessarily make you masculine. So that's one thing we really wanted to define and separate ourselves from some of the BS that's going on out here in this world of men out here on the internet is honorable masculinity. It's a big piece in martial arts is that honor piece. What is honor though? A lot of people, you may have heard it, with the military or different things like that, but what is honor? Honor is basically your personal code of ethics. Your personal code, that thing you don't break, that thing that's cemented within you. What's your non-negotiables, the things you don't do, what's a part of your integrity, your honesty, and just the way you move as a man. That's what your honor is. It's a code that you choose to live your life by. For instance, and we all have different teachings that we've learned over the years, whether it be from school or religion or family and friends and all these different things like that. Don't steal. Thou shalt not steal. Treat others as you want to be treated. Don't cheat. Don't hit women. All of these different things. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with these things, but these are outside teachings that we learn, and some of them, we take and we use for ourselves. But the question ends up being like, is this your reality? As a lot of people say, your truth. I don't necessarily say your truth. It's more like your reality is like, is this your state of being? Is this true? Is this true to you on a personal level? Because a lot of the things we learn, we pick up over time. We don't even know why we do the things that we do. Which is the funny part. So learning those things are a really important thing in what we teach, and not only with people we talk to, and in with each other, what we've learned in martial arts, but in our community, free community. Shout out to the Warbound, our free community. The link is down in the bio, the description, but also in our course that we teach, the 8 inner gates, also linked down, is a big piece of honor. Honor is one of those 8 virtues that we really dig into on there, and included with integrity and different things like that, the different aspects to build a good foundation for your life. But honor is a big piece. That's why we really wanted to talk about that tonight. Our co-host Edmund wasn't able to make it with us tonight. He's got the family thing going on, so he's busy with that. They're keeping them running, man, keeping them running. But that's the beautiful part of having a brotherhood, is when you have somebody to not only bounce ideas off, ironing, sharpening iron. You have somebody to keep you honest, keep you on that path when they know you're off course, but also somebody that can pick up where where you have to put things down. So they could pick up and run the ball for you when those times come up. So, man, like I said, one of the biggest things, and feel free to comment down in the comment section. You might see this thing jiggle a little bit. Sorry, my laptop's a little shaky. But yeah, feel free to comment down below, man, with your comments on honor and masculinity and all these different things like that. We really want to start digging into these things and find out what honor means to you. What is your moral code? What are some non-negotiables for you? For me, is honesty is a huge one. It's a part of my my code, my personal code as a man, is to as much as possible in all instances to be as honest as I can. Not necessarily and sometimes I've been called blunt, and sometimes been called an asshole for it. But man, it's like one thing people can't say is that I'm a liar, or that I'm not real with them and about how I feel about things, or what's going on in the situations. And I much rather prefer to be called blunt, and maybe even be called an asshole sometimes, than to be called fake. So, that's a part of my code, is just to be honest. But that's also something I expect from other people, is to be honest with me. Don't lie to me. Especially don't look at my face and lie to me. That's a big thing for me, is that honesty. It's a part of my own personal honor code. And you got to figure out what's important for you. What are those top things for you in your life when it comes to honor? So now that we understand basically what we're talking about when we say honor, and how does that mix in with masculinity? Well, a lot of what we have going on now with Instagram and YouTube and these different things like that is, how can I put it in a nice way? Posers. We have a lot of posers, man. We got guys running around in rented Lamborghinis, and maybe it is their Lamborghini. It's like for whatever reason, it may be your Lamborghini. Holding up the money phone. You see them with a bunch of women. Questionable whether they're paying them or they're not. It's like that's a questionable thing. Maybe they're renting them by the hour, like the Lambo, but we're not getting into that. But the biggest thing is, these guys show the trappings of success, and that's I get that. For a lot of younger guys, that got my attention too, is to see those guys getting these things. The question I never seem to ask myself, though, is, how are these guys' morals? Are they actually good men? Is like, not nice guys, but good men. Is like, are they, you're successful in this, but are you a good man? Are you a guy that I don't have to watch? We've been saying that quite a bit. A guy who does not have that honor, those morals, that integrity, different things like that, you always have to keep your eye on him. You're always going to have to watch this man. And a lot of these guys, man, if you watch the way they move and you hear stories later on about, how they live their life, how they make their money, the women they deal with, the kind of relationships they have with these women, the kind of the chaos and stuff that goes on in the backgrounds. And even, Hollywood, all this stuff is coming out now with between Epstein and Diddy and all these different things like that. And these guys had all these trappings of success, but they were not honorable men. From what we're seeing, I don't know any of these guys personally, but from the outside looking in, honor didn't seem to be a part of their daily life. It's like, so as a man, when you're moving in these ways, if you don't have that limit on yourself, if you have no limits at all in your life, that's when you get into running with the wrong people, making that quick money, delving into the drugs and really getting extreme with the alcohol. It's like loose morals when it comes to women, not worrying about who or who you're dealing with or who you're laying with and everything like that. That's how a lot of guys get caught up in some real jacked up situations, from the everyday high school guy who starts getting attention for sports or whatever it may be, and then finds himself, you know, ass out. Just to be real about it, the guy that peaks in high school but never actually becomes a good, decent man, and just kind of that was the height of him. We've all met guys like that. We've all been to school with guys like that, to where like you stopped evolving in you stopped evolving your senior year of high school, and that goes on. Unfortunately, that goes on a lot, because they didn't have a set boundary for themselves. They didn't have a map, a roadmap for themselves, a code that they live by to make sure that they stay on the right path and keep growing as a man. Instead they, like I said, go after the women, the drugs, the money, these different things like that. All of these things can really, if you don't have that strong code within you, it will corrupt you. It's just bound to happen. So, a lot of guys experience these situations. Let me check and see if we have any comments here going. All right. Yeah, but a lot of guys find themselves in these situations and wonder, what happened. It's like I was living on life, I was making all this money, I was doing these things, I was having a blast, and then next thing you know, they find themselves in the gutter, and that's not it's not a great feeling, man. So as a man, you have to have that honor code that you develop for yourself is your guiding light, your beacon, your alarm system when you get off course, when you start drifting towards the excess in alcohol, or you fall off on your working out, or you fall off on your learning. You stop growing, you stop becoming, you stop going after bigger goals, you stop trying to live and go after life with a thirst and the zest that a guy really should go after. When that starts to happen, this becomes that thing that sets off the alarms for you. Whether it be, okay, I'm not in alignment with my integrity right now. I'm not being honest with myself or with other people. I'm finding myself trying to take the easy way out of life, and that's the biggest part with honor. Is a lot of guys tend to take the easy way out, unfortunately, and that can be a really damaging thing when you take, because, as they say, easy come, easy go. But it's like if you do the easy things, you have a hard life. If you do the hard things, you have an easy life. And that's basically what it boils down to, man. Is like with honor. So it's not necessarily that you don't have access to these things. It's not that you're not going out and having fun. It's not that you're not traveling the world, or getting the money, buying the Lambo. I use it as an example, but it's not that you're not doing these things, but you don't let these things change who you are. Is the biggest things. With a lot of these guys, these things become who they are. You look at NFL players, you look at a lot of these athletes, and their ego and their life gets so wrapped up in what they do that when they can no longer do it, whether they get injured or they get something happens and they just fall off. Same thing with famous people, artists, and different things like that. When they fall off, some of them never actually bounce back. You see some of these guys and ladies, end up homeless under the bridge somewhere, and you were making you were making hundreds and tens of millions of tens and hundreds of millions of dollars just 10 years ago. What happened? And it's like they lose themselves because their ego and their life got wrapped up in what they did, because because of who they were in that moment. They felt like they gained access to all these other things in life, but because they didn't have that moral code, that honor code for themselves, that wasn't based off of who they were and what they were doing, that it just breaks you, honestly. And I've experienced this, something similar to that, not to that extreme, but it's when you wrap yourself up in what you do and who you are and your success and these different things like that, and what you can get and what you have, and the money you make and all these women you have and all the access you have to these things and the network and all these different things like that. Once that's gone, Are you still the same guy? That's the question. Can I strip everything away from you? Can you reach the pinnacle of who you are as a guy? The money, all the money you want to make, the houses, being able to travel the world, or whatever that may look like for you, that success, that pinnacle of success for you. Can you get to that point and then lose everything, be stripped of it? Can I take your money? Can I take your cars, your home, your status, your success, your name? You become a nobody. Nobody even knows you. You lose your network. Can I take all of these things from you and you still be you? That you don't walk around with your head down because you don't have that. Your name doesn't invoke a certain emotion in people. Because you don't have the money to, um, take a bunch of people out, and you oh, it's all on me. Family and friends and these different things like that, who only become depend on you as a wallet. You know, these areas, are they still, can you still be you if you don't have these things? If you don't have a successful job, if you're not making six figures, are you still you? If the women, if the hot, I almost said hot thotties, the IG models aren't, or IG ladies aren't hunting for you, they're not, overflowing your DMs, are you still you? If the barista at Starbucks isn't even checking for you, or the chick at the gas station isn't even looking your way, are you still you? If you go from driving a Lambo to driving a beater, you went from driving a 2025, Lambo, to driving a 1999 Honda Civic. Are you still you? That's the biggest thing, man. That's the thing with the honor, is like, while everything else may move, that code of honor that you have for yourself is rock solid. It doesn't move. That's why it has to be the core of you. Because while everything else is in chaos, the earth might be shaking, your world might be getting turned upside down, you always have that center. You always have that place to come back to. Is like, I'm not gonna say it's not gonna hurt. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be not gonna be uncomfortable and all these different things like that. But you always have that place to come back to and realize that, yes, I lost everything. It's like, and it can be devastating. Believe me, I've been there a few times to where you get to a certain point, you think you're here, and the next it's just boom. It's just been there, bro. Been there. And it can be rough and jarring to you. It can be like you're driving at 60 miles, you're driving 80 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden you hit a wall, and you go from 80 to zero. It's like hitting that brick wall, man. It's like no airbags, just stopped, head shaking, concussion, the whole nine. Um, been there, and that can be a really jarring experience. But at the end of it, can you say, like, okay, I lost all of these things, but I didn't lose who I am. I'm still me. And if you can say that, you can always rebuild the rest of your life. You can always get more money. You can always gain more status. Even if you have to completely change up your life and go from doing something that you were doing before, maybe you were doing real estate, now you're doing IT, whatever it may be. You were working in banking, now you're doing landscaping, whatever that may be. And I'm not giving them any kind of hierarchy. I'm just saying very different things, from going from banking to landscaping, very different career fields. But you can rebuild yourself. You can start over again, as long as you have that foundation. Because without that, yeah, you're going to be lost. You're going to be wandering these streets. You're going to be drifting through life. You're going to be, woe was me, telling the story about everything that happened to you, and da da da, looking for people who feel bad for you. Why, whatever. What are you going to do, though? How are you going to bounce back from this? What's your comeback story is the biggest thing. When you have that coach, you can build yourself, like I said, you can build yourself back into that man that you've dreamt of, back and better. But if you don't have that, and if you're walking around here and just doing things um, the easy way, making the easy money, dealing with the easy women, doing things, living life the easy way, not trying to do things the proper way, not trying to build yourself up to where no matter what happens to you, this doesn't change. Who I am doesn't change. I don't lose myself in what I do. And it's like, it's not an easy thing. I'm still learning in the process of how to do certain things too. It's like, so I'm not saying I'm a complete expert. I don't think any of us are an expert at this thing. Some of us just have more experience in doing it. Some of us just failed way more times than other people. That's really all it is. It's like, because it's like, well, I have more experience than you because I failed way more than you. Sometimes way more than people are willing to. That's the only reason I can talk about the things I'm talking about, is because I've been there, and it's to a certain extent. Have I lost millions? No, not yet. Will I have the opportunity one day? Probably. Not probably. I'm sure. I'm sure that'll come around. Um, but it's one of those things to build yourself into the type of man to where that doesn't end you. That just because I don't have this title, this job title, this certain amount of money in the bank, this woman on my arm, or access to these women, or access to these things, or having the network of people who don't really give a shit about you anyway. Because that's the biggest thing, man. It's like, if you're surrounded by people who, if you fell off today, would never talk to you again, dude, that's an empty life. That is an empty existence. Because you're not. I wouldn't even call it a life. You're not living at that point. You're just existing. If you fell off today and nobody checked on you, nobody wondered what happened to you, like, man, it's like, man, I haven't heard from Travis in like 6 months, man. Is he good? You talk to him? Is like, is he still alive? Is he dead in a ditch somewhere? If it takes 6 months for someone to come and check on you, bro, is like, do you may really want to reevaluate your relationships. I'll just put it that way. But anyway, I'm not gonna harp on that too much. But yeah, that's what we're talking about with honor, man. Is a lot of the things we see online and everything like that we associate with success. But the question is, what is that built on? What is that success built on? Are these guys really examples of success? That we were watching. Emmy and I were talking about. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a real big Instagram, and not throwing any, not going for any smoke or anything like that. Just using an example. But he's really big on Instagram, I think, and I think on YouTube as well. Reform guy. He went to prison for a long time, got out. Now he's a life coach, success coach, these different things like that. Real, tatted up. Man, I forgot. I really wish I remember his name. But anyway, he built his mind on like these principles that he learned in prison, as like, and it built that discipline and these different things like that. And he's real and it's like, okay, cool. On the outside, it really screams like, oh man, this is a masculine dude. He doesn't take no shit. Da da da. He went and did time, but didn't let it break him. And da da da. And now he came out and is making some of himself, and it looks great on video. It looks great from the outside, But there's that question like, okay, what's he really like though? And then he went and did he was on a panel, I think, with Fresh and Fit. And it was, some successful guys and some other guys who were YouTubers and content creators who weren't, in shape and as successful or different things like that. Some were dads, I think, like that. And he and this one guy just did not get along at all. He hated this one guy that, kind of had more of a dad bod, was more reserved, kind of low key. I wouldn't call him like beta, I wouldn't say beta or anything like that. But he wasn't. It looked awkward him being on the same stage with them, but it was for a reason from what I'm seeing. But anyway, so this guy was saying like, he was saying a lot of things like, but are these, having, dating 30 women at the same time and doing these different things, have blowing money and having, $200,000 watches and these different things like that. It's like, is that what a real man is? And he was questioning this. And this is what tells me that somebody either does not believe what they say they believe, or has been brainwashed to it, or is just putting on an act. One of the two. Is usually what I think about is like, either you actually don't believe it, and sometimes the same person, sometimes the same thing, or you're probably putting on an act. This is all an act. Because this guy, the minute that got questioned, the prison dude, everything like that, went after this guy. I mean, just belligerently was talking about kicking his ass and fighting him, and how he could buy him, and how he'll take his wife, and all kinds of craziness, man. We're just getting extremely disrespectful with this guy. And this dude just, and the thing that made this dude even madder was this guy just stayed calm the whole time, just level the whole time. And we're just like, man, why you gotta get so aggressive with it? I just asked you questions, like, is this what what real manhood is? Da 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 da, and was questioning that. And this dude just got more and more angry. As this guy stayed calm, he just got more and more riled up, and just got more aggressive. And at one point, got up and was like, going towards the guy, and all these different crazy things like that. Man, it was wild, man. But it was such an interesting thing, because the more hype this guy got, the more masculine this dude seemed to get, because he never came out of frame. We hear masculine frame. He never came out of frame. He was just boom. Yeah, you get those moments where boom, boom, but it was never like here. It was like boom, up, down, back, back. He always came back to level. The other guy never really came back down fully. He started here, got a little hype as as the conversations were going on, and he was here for a while. But man, he went here, and he might have came back down, but he never came back down to his level, man. He completely broke frame. And this dude who could obviously beat the brakes off of this we'll call him the dad, who could beat the brakes off of the dad, completely lost his shit on stage in front of everybody, and ended up looking like a fool, honestly, on all over the internet. I mean, people were talking about this all over the place, and he honestly it made him look really, really bad, because he kept talking about, stay in frame and all these different things like that. And he completely lost his shit, because this guy was questioning something that he said he believed in, or something that he promoted, or whatever it may be, a kind of lifestyle that he promotes to other people. That's part of his business, which I get, defend that. But he wasn't defending his argument anymore. He was, it was something, he was attacking the other guy. He wasn't just like, oh, well, this is, I'm an example of this. It wasn't, because if you're that way, proof, you already have proof. Why do I need to battle with you? Why do I need to argue with you of a lifestyle that I've already lived? What do I have to prove to you? Is that you're questioning this. Do you have the things that have you had the results that I have? No. Is like, so what do I need to prove to you? Is like, I am a result. I have the results because I did the work. Is like, but the way this guy got so hyped, man, it made me really question, like, is this guy really who he presents himself to being? And a lot of people started to question that. Like, I think a lot of people started Googling, like how much money is this guy? What's his real net worth? Did he really go to jail? All these different things like that. It's like I think there were some real questions that popped up behind that, and I don't know the answers to them, but it didn't make him look more relevant, and it didn't make him look more masculine. That interaction, when he got that emotional and out of control, he was losing control there on stage while this was all being recorded, to the point where Fresh and Fit had to try and I think it was Myron, had to try and calm him down in the situation. It's like, over something that was just words, just questioning what he was actually saying. Wasn't saying anything crazy. Was just questioning, like, hey, you say these things. You say this is what a real man is. A real man has these things, and Lambo, and this, and money, and success, and women, and that. You say a real man has these, but is that what a real man is? Because in my experience, this is what I've experienced. Is like, so is that what a real man is to you? And just him questioning that just made him just lose his shit. And so it's like that. It's like, okay, does this guy actually have honor? Where's his integrity at? Where's his, where are his morals? Is he really being honest with who he is? Because if you're being honest and showing up in an honest way, in a authentic way with who you are and how you live your life, somebody saying that, why would that set you off so much? It just makes no sense. It's like that. So that was a huge example of what we're talking about with a lot of these guys that now represent themselves, quote unquote, as these masculine, maintain masculine frame and success, and dating coaches and these different things like that, if you really dig in below the surface, you find out that these guys, a lot of them are, their bank account may be full, but they're morally bankrupt. And it's unfortunate, man. It's like says, I'm not, not bringing any smoke, not trying to start no shit, but it's one of those things where it just makes you really look at the situations like, okay, so these guys are out here promoting this kind of life, but this isn't for some of them, this isn't even the life they're living. They're not even being honest with who they really are. They're not being truthful with who they are. That doesn't last very long. And you start seeing that some of them, like Fresh and Fit and different things like that, are really starting to have problems because what they say is true isn't lining up with how they actually live their truth, quote unquote. The reality of the situation, the reality of how they live, the reality of how they make the money, the reality of how they move, their relationships, all these different things like that. How can you teach me to live a successful life when in the background you're doing everything but the thing you're telling me to do, or the thing you're telling me to do doesn't even work? It's like, so, that's a long way of saying, man, that, we really have to do our due diligence and realize that that's why we have to have our own honor code to ourselves, so that when we see some of these gurus and these different things like that, that we can judge it better. When I have something solid to fall back on, I don't get swept up in the things you say or the things you want to show me or these different things like that of how you move. I still have that stable thing that brings me back. It's like, okay, does this guy align with who I am though? Is that, yeah, he has, okay, he has a nice Lambo, da da da. From the outside, his life looks amazing, but something, man, and you get that gut feeling, something about him just doesn't sit right with me. It just doesn't feels like it's an act. It feels like it's a show. It feels like he's, this is a performance. It's something just feels off about this. And then you start seeing chinks and cracks in that armor, in that mask that they've been wearing for so long. And a lot of guys, like say, Diddy is a perfect example. Outside, we probably didn't know a lot of this stuff was going on, but man, it's like that stuff starts to really show itself eventually. Nobody can maintain wearing that mask and living a lie forever. Eventually, it's going to catch up with you. Eventually, you not being a moral man, you not having honor, is going to catch up with you, whether in your relationships, whether in how you made your money, whether in the stories that get told about you, later on down the line. Because if you screw over enough people, man, that always comes back to you. I heard a lot, we all heard the people you see going up the ladder, the same people you got to see coming back down. And man, if you screw over everybody in your life just to get where you need, just to get where you want to be, to get to the quote unquote success, man, when life happens to you and and karma comes for your ass, those are the same people you're going to see coming back down. So the same people you're kicking on the way up, man, when you come back down, man, some of them must be wearing steel-toe boots. I'm just going to say it like that. So yeah, man, let me see if we have any questions real quick, see what we got going on, man. I don't want to hold you guys too long. All right. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where you just, as guys, we really have to move in a certain type of way to keep ourselves on course. Because if we don't have that baseline, that base to what we're doing, we are going to find ourselves in a lot of problems eventually. So that becomes one of those things that you don't want anybody having to question your morals at a certain point. Not even yourself. And sometimes you're going to have to question yourself. Like, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right move for me to make? Is this the right decision? Are these the right people that I should be around? There's going to be a lot you have to say no to, man. It's not the easiest thing trying to move necessarily with honor, because there's going to be things that you quote unquote experiences that you're just not going to have. You're not going to have quote unquote fun that you're going to miss out on, that you have to say no to, because deep down that it doesn't align with who you are. But man, when you have that though, when you have that set in stone, dude, you can do anything and go anywhere and be okay. Like I said, is life going to be easy just because you have that? No. But it's going to be much easier than those who don't. You always know what to say no. You always know what you should say no to. You always know where the path is, because even when you're off path, you're like, okay, I'm not where I need to be. There's going to be something in you that speaks to you that says, hey, don't do this, or yes, do this, or do this, and do this instead. Or you might have to switch up your whole life. It's like, stop doing this and go this direction. This is aligning with who you are. This is worthy of you. This isn't worthy of you. You'll start getting those messages the more you narrow down who you are, as we say in the power circle. Shout out to Soul. Who are you? Where are you going? The more you narrow that down and can ask these questions about that, and develop that moral code of honor for yourself, the easier your life will become. Because that's a hard thing to do, man. It's the thing that a lot of guys don't want to look at. Like I said, there's gonna be times where you miss out on the fun things. You might not be the guy getting, living the life that you see on Instagram right away. It's like, but you're the guy that a year from now, when that guy is no longer living that life, when he's no longer relevant, when he's lost all his money, when he's maybe finds himself in jail for something stupid, doing some crazy immoral shit, you'll be the guy that's still building himself up. You'll build the things that last in your life, not the things that crumble. Man, because it's like fast money, fast times, man. This is fast money, fast times, and fast cars. All do a similar thing. Fast money goes, fast times end, and fast cars crash. just gonna put it to you like that, man. Is like so yeah, man. It's like a lot of times, building yourself up, it may take longer for you to do, but that's the thing that lasts. That's how you build a kingdom for yourself that lasts, that people can't tear down. People can't come to me and say that I'm immoral. It's like, or you're a liar, or you're this, or you're that, or these different things like that, because I know I've lived my life in a way to where it's like, no, I'm not that. So I don't get upset about it. You say I lie about, you're lying about your mental health stuff. It's like, nah, bro, not at all. My journey, my fight with that has been all me. It's like I don't have to worry about somebody looking up or looking into that thing, because I'm not lying about it. I don't come and say things that I don't do. I'm not gonna get on here and say like, hey, I drive a Lambo and I got all this money and I got this and I models and these different things like that and I made $1 million, because that's bullshit. And eventually you guys are gonna find out about that. So why lie now about that? Because, man, the internet reveals all. So anyway, guys, that's the biggest thing about honor, and why we say honorable masculinity, not just masculinity, not just not just some of these phrases that a lot of these guys have, and staying frame, and and some of this has some good information, but it's just been it's like you just gotta sort through the shit to find some of this information, man, because a lot of it's bull. A lot of it's make believe and fantasy and trauma. So it's finding those things that actually work for you, like I said, and having that thing that guides you along the way, and that thing that sets you and grounds you, so that you can continue in life no matter what happens. Whether the wind starts blowing or your whole life gets turned upside down, it's like, will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Will it be hard? Yes. But you always have that thing to come back to. That's like, okay, even without all these trappings that people say are success, I'm still me. If I was to lose it all, I'd still be me, and I can always build another life. So just having that, man, and developing that. And guys, if you really want to, work on that, like I said, we have, sorry, dog. And that's one thing we talk about a lot in the community. We have the Warbound community. It's a free community that you can join, where we really all get together and really start talking about some of these things. Digging into some of this information that we're all finding, and figuring out what's what's the truth and what's the BS. Because a lot of this stuff is just like I said. There's usually there might be a nugget in there, but man, sometimes you gotta dig through the shit to find it. So what's the reality? What actually works? How do you build a life that you don't have to be worried about people checking into? How do you build a life you don't have to be ashamed of later on down the line? How do you become the man that can stand with his head held high in any room and look people in the eye and not be ashamed of who you are or how you got to where you are? How do you do that? And that's one thing we talk about a lot in that group, the Warbound. We do have another group that's, one level up from that, where we start talking about more about business and branding and, entrepreneurship and get more into the combat things and the mastery pieces of things like that. It gets way deeper in that group. That is a paid group that feel free to, reach out to us about that. It's called the Legion. But man, the main thing that we talk about, with these things, especially with like honor, is one part of the 8 virtues of the Bushido, which is a part of our course, the 8 inner gates, where we talk about, honor, integrity, things like discipline. How do you move in a way that's with self-control, honesty, like I said, integrity, duty and loyalty. How do you move with these things and how do you take these things and set a good foundation in your life so that you can build anything else up on it? So that you're not building on quicksand. You're not building on just money or status or reputation or these different things like that, but you have something solid to build your life upon so that you can become that 2.0 version of yourself and not worry about your whole kingdom falling apart. Or if it does have to fall apart, you still have something solid to come back to start building yourself up again. That's the biggest thing. So, like I said, we have that course link down in the description. I'll also put the link in the description of the video after this post, called the 8 Inner Gates. If you click that link, man, you will get access to the first 2 lessons of the course completely for free on us. And make the decision, man, hey man, this is really worth it. I want to continue, and you can go from there and go ahead and purchase the course. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna hop off here, but hope this was insightful. A lot of people, people here is talking about honorable masculinity. We really wanted to dig into, like, why do we talk about honorable masculinity, not just masculinity? Why do we make that distinction? Why do we get more detailed with that about why we have that set in place and have that set as a foundation for what we're learning in our own lives, but we're also bringing to you guys. So guys, be better than good, be better than great, man. Hope you guys are all doing well. Enjoy the weekend. Don't have too much fun over the weekend, man. Start building up that moral code for yourself, man, so that you become that unshakable, unbreakable man in this world. And man, just remember to fight your fight. Not anybody else's, not mine, not Edmund's, not the top G's or anything like that. Fight your fight. Learn what you need to learn in your life and what values you need to have for you to bring your full version out, to become that 2.0 version of yourself. What does that mean to you? Not everybody else. Because at the end of the day, man, you much rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Take it easy, guys.